Want a huge deal on a large pizza? For a very limited time at Donato's, buy any large pizza and add a large one-topping pizza for 50% off. Yes, half off. Use promo code HALF. Donato's. Gotta love more.
The Sports Desk at the Columbus Dispatch presents the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast. With your host, Ohio State basketball beat writer Adam Jardy.
Brady Batiste has given me the run. Here it goes. Up and away. Slam jam bam. And now he does a little dance.
Now, the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch. Today is Thursday, March 12th, 2026. It's my official duty to welcome you into episode 541 of the BuckeyeXtra Men's Basketball Podcast. Welcome to Jubilation City. Welcome to probably the highest elevation at which I've ever recorded a podcast. I'm here in the hockey press box at the United Center, well above the court where the Big Ten tournament is taking place. And I came up here. We're in between sessions at the tournament. Wisconsin just managed to fend off a furious Washington run and advance. But obviously, the reason that we're here, the reason I'm talking to you, is that Ohio State took care of Iowa earlier today here inside the United Center. Final, Ohio State 72, Iowa 69. This was, I'm not surprised by the final outcome. I felt like the way Ohio State has been playing of late, this just all kind of lined up to be the type of game that you see where one team has a double-digit win against the other team, and then when they get the rematch 2 weeks later, things flip. And that's what we saw in this game. But the way that it unfolded, and certainly the final minute, it got wild. And with the win, Ohio State improves to 21-11 on the season, and the number 8 seed Buckeyes now advance to play number 1 seed Michigan on Friday in the Big Ten tournament, noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central. And normally, these podcasts would come later in the evening or, sometime later in the day, but that game is in, 18 hours or something like that. So I'm going to try to keep this relatively quick, but also wanted to get something to you with as much time as possible between now and tip-off against the Wolverines. So really thrilled to be here in Chicago. Heck of a game that we saw just a little bit ago, and we got a lot to talk about. So first off, this was certainly there was a rematch or a revenge element to this game, and it kind of depended on who you talked to. But when I spoke to John Mobley Jr. in the locker room, he made it very clear that not only did he want payback for having lost at Iowa the way that Ohio State did 15 days ago, but he recognized the fact that last year Ohio State needed one more win to make the NCAA tournament, and it was Iowa that denied the Buckeyes in Indianapolis and sent them home early and kept them out of March Madness. And so that was all on John Mobley's mind, he said, and he felt like they needed some payback against the Hawkeyes. This is the 4th straight year these teams have played in this thing, and Ohio State's 3-1. That was the one win for the Hawkeyes was last year. And interestingly enough, every time that these teams have played in the Big Ten tournament during that stretch, Iowa's been, or the team that's won has been the lower seeded team until today, because Ohio State was the 8 seed, Iowa was the 9 seed. I'm reminded, I talk about it on here this time of the year, every year, how great it is to have an open locker room. After the game, spoke with Bruce Thornton, John Mobley, Amari Bynum, Christoph Tilley, Gabe Cupps, and Josh Ojanwana before we then got Jake Diebler out in the hallway for a couple more minutes. So we'll have, by the time you wake up, certainly on Friday morning, I've got like a whole bunch of stories that I'm writing out of this game. We're at the time of the year where if you don't write it in 24 hours, it becomes obsolete. So it's a lot of get it done, and can't hang on to things very long. We'll pass along that. I mean, Josh Ojanwana didn't really get into specifics about why he hasn't been cleared or how far along he feels he is, or if he's 100%, just that he's not. But that, yeah, he is 1,000. I don't remember the exact phrase. I will have the story for you by Friday morning, but he very much strongly said, yeah, I'll be back at Ohio State next year. That's how this is going to go. It's always interesting asking guys that kind of question this time of year. portal being what it is, but it doesn't seem like there's much to worry about there as far as Josh goes. Big difference in this game to me compared to the last game was Christoph Tilley and the impact that his skill set had on Iowa and how it opened up things for Ohio State's offense in ways that quickly spiraled the other direction in that loss at Iowa City back in late February. The way that Iowa was able to pressure Ohio State in the backcourt, was able to consistently bring two to the ball, and Ohio State struggled to break that and adapt to that. Tilley blunted a lot of that, and I thought was especially impactful. So he finished with 16 points, and 12 of those came in the first half as Ohio State withstood a rough start to the game and built a 4-point lead. But 20 of Ohio State's 34 points came from its two primary post players. Tilley had 12 and Bynum had 8. Ohio State led by 4 at the break, despite Bruce Thornton having 7 points on 4 shots and John Mobley being scoreless on 4 shots. I thought that Tilley's impact on this game was significant. And then in the second half, it became more guard dominated, and Bruce and Mobley were able to get untracked and get things going. You had 4 of Ohio State's 5 starters in double figures. Mobley finished with 12, again, all in the second half. Bynum finished with, Amari Bynum had 11, 5 of 10 shooting. 0 of 3 from 3, but man, he continues to announce himself game by game with his ability to dunk the basketball. Bruce Thornton with a team-high 6 rebounds, which continues to kind of be a thing, but what a stat line. 24 points, 10 of 14 from the floor, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover. Tilley had 16 points on 5 of 6 shooting, 4 rebounds. He did have 4 fouls. He had 3 turnovers. Ohio State as a team finished with 9. And Devin Royal really never quite got going in this game. He took a couple of significant blows. Like, he got hit in the head once or twice. There was a play late in the game where he was slow to get up because I think it was Bynum got the rebound, but like fell into him, and they both kind of collapsed, and Iowa got the ball and laid it in. And that was one of those plays where you go, is this going to go that way? But Devin he's definitely shaken up a little bit, but he was able to shake it off and come back in. So he had 6 points on 2 of 4 shooting, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, no turnovers. And then off the bench, the only points from Ohio State's reserves, Gabe Cupps with a 3-pointer, which was the only 3-pointer for Ohio State during the first half. And the Buckeyes were only 6 of 20 from 3 in this game. But Ohio State was able to pound the ball inside, to score at the rim, to get to the free throw line. And thought that the getting Christoph Tilley back into the fold for this game had an impact on how Iowa wanted to guard the Buckeyes, and certainly what Ohio State was able to do offensively. So now it's Michigan. Ohio State gets a third shot against the Wolverines, which, if I'm being honest, I don't know that anybody wants another shot at Michigan. Interesting scene here where, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 minutes before the opening tip, Michigan walked in and took seats behind the bench, or behind the basket where Ohio State would be shooting in the second half. And they sat there and they watched this whole game, which, makes sense. Sometimes you do see teams that maybe particularly on a game day, they will come and watch and just kind of be in the arena, but then like they'll leave at halftime or something like that. But in this case, Michigan was there for the whole game. And it was funny because as I was walking to the Ohio State locker room as soon as the game was over, and walking through the corridors here in the United Center, crossed paths with Roddy Gale, who gave me a handshake, and we talked for just a minute. And I could not help but think back to being in this exact building 4 years ago when Ohio State put together that run that it did in the Big Ten tournament, went from playing on the Wednesday all the way to the Saturday, gave Purdue a push there in the semifinals, and really for a minute threatened to win the whole thing, which was that was a wild run for Ohio State. And this, one of the most amazing stats, I think, in my career covering this team, or at least in these 11 years, was Roddy Gale missing his first 3-pointer in that tournament, hitting 9 straight, and then missing his last one, finishing 9 of 11 from 3 to really power Ohio State to 3 wins in 3 days and put some pressure on Purdue there in the semifinals. I remember him hitting his first 3 of that game, and it put Ohio State up like 6 or something. And you're just thinking, like, they're going to do this. And then they didn't. But anyway, it was just interesting that as soon as I saw Roddy, and I was like, we have spoken in this like exact spot before, but very different circumstances. So get into a few more things here in a second. Before I do, I want to remind you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you enjoy your favorite podcast. Now, if you subscribe, you'll automatically get the newest ones just as soon as our man Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, can grab them and publish them for us. While you're subscribing or downloading, please leave a review, please click 5 stars, and please consider telling a friend. Thanks to everyone who's taken the time to do all those things. Donato's is legendary for putting so many toppings on their pizzas, but just wait till you hear what they're taking off. For a very limited time, when you buy any large Donato's pizza, you can add a large one-topping pizza for 50% off. That's right, half off. You order using promo code HALF. Order your favorite large Donato's pizza and add a large one-topping pizza for half off today. Donato's, gotta love more. So let's get into that. Let's get into the last minute of this game because it was wild, right? So Ohio State. Once the Buckeyes took the lead well, first off, okay, I'm going to back myself up here a few steps. Rough start. Ohio State in the early going fell behind 12-6, missed 6 of its first 7 shots, and had 4 turnovers. Buckeyes struggled to hold on to the ball. Just seemed like it was flying out of their hands. It is a different basketball. It's a Wilson ball instead of the Nike ball that they're used to playing with. I will have a story on that. I asked a couple of guys how different it felt, and a fun little note. I'll put it on here. You'll like hearing this, but I asked Jake Diebler about it, and he said that they practiced. Obviously, during the season, they're going to practice with the ball they're going to play with. But he said they practiced with the Wilson ball during the summer specifically for this, and I thought that was a fascinating, really neat little detail into the level of planning that goes into some of this stuff where. He said they know that they're going to use a different ball when it gets this time of year. And obviously, like playing with a different basketball in July probably doesn't realistically help you a lot in March. But I think it sends a message, right? And I thought that was really interesting that was one of the many ways that they kind of subtly put it in their heads. They're like, listen, we're going to be playing important basketball in March, and we're going to use this basketball. So we got to get some reps in with it now in the middle of the summer. That will feature highly up. Or that will be the lead to my story when I write that here after I finish this podcast. So early turnovers, struggles. It's 12-6 Iowa when Bynum can't quite grab a lob from Bruce Thornton, but Tilley was able to get the rebound. He draws a foul. He hits one of the 2 free throws. 11:23 to go in the game. Ohio State's within 5. The Buckeyes would score on 3 straight possessions to make it 12-11. Bruce Thornton hit a floater from like the left side with 10:06 left in the half. Those were his first points. They made it 13-11. So Ohio State scores on 3 straight. Thornton threw a ball out of bounds, like a miscommunication with Mobley. Don't see that very often. And then Bennett Sturts hit a 3 to put Ohio State down 5. Ohio State then scored on its next 5 straight, where Amari Bynum had a massive slam dunk with 1 second left in the shot clock. Mobley had a 3 on the left wing. He passed it up and got it to Bynum, and he cut to the rim, and he got it right before the shot clock buzzed. So as I look at this now, he scored on 3 straight possessions. He had that one. He had a nice give from Tilley. He had the dunk with 1 second left in the shot clock, and then he drove, and it was like it was going to get blocked, and he kind of readjusted and laid it in. So I put Ohio State up 21-20. Buckeye scored on 5 straight there. And then they had a possession that ended with a Gabe Cupps 3-point miss. Iowa came down and got 2 free throws with 4:10 to go to reclaim the lead at 22-21. But Ohio State didn't have an empty possession for the rest of the half. The Buckeyes scored on 6 straight to close the half, which means they scored on 14 of their last 16 possessions of the first half against a defense that came in number 1 in the Big Ten in fewest points allowed. And certainly against a defense that had its way with the Buckeyes for major stretches of that game in Iowa City just a couple of weeks ago. And that sequence was started by Gabe Cupps 3-pointer. So the only 3-pointer of the first half for Ohio State, the only bench points for Ohio State in this game. And it allows Ohio State to take a 34-30 lead into the half. And you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, Ohio State's up 4. Bruce Thornton has taken 4 shots and John Mobley hasn't scored yet. So if you're Ohio State in that situation, you kind of like your chances, I would think. And the Buckeyes came out, traded some buckets, and it was 38-32. Iowa got a free throw, made it 38-33. Mobley hits a 3 where Amari Bynum drove, kicked it back out to Mobley. He hits the 3. It's Mobley's first 3 of the game. and Ohio State's lead is up to 8. Iowa cuts it to 6, and then here's where Bruce Thornton just goes nuclear for like a 2-minute stretch. He takes the game into the under 16 timeout by drawing a foul on a jumper, 15:53 to go, hits the free throw after the timeout. Ohio State's up 9. Iowa comes down, misses a 3. Thornton hits a deep mid-range jumper. Ohio State's now up 11, first double-digit lead of the game. Thornton scores again on the next possession after Iowa turns it over. It's a 13-point lead, 48-35. Iowa turns it over on a charge. Thornton comes down. He buries a 3. Iowa calls timeout. 13:53 to go. The Buckeyes are up 16, and they're feeling it. And you could just see in that sequence, that was the end of the court where I was seated. There are 6 seats above 2 of the tunnels leading out to the court. Everything else seating wise here is up in the hockey press box where I am right now. But so my view wasn't too terribly different from where I am at the Schottenstein Center, and close enough. And you could get enough of a feel to where I was like, you could just see it in Bruce that he was like, I'm making some shots here. I'm going to put this on my shoulders. He was feeling it, and his teammates found him. And that was a massive stretch for Ohio State because they would need every one of those points down the stretch. And it got to a point where I was with about halfway through the second half. Ohio State's up 15 with about 10 minutes to go. And then Iowa started to make some shots, and Ohio State missed had a couple turnovers. You could feel the Iowa crowd start to get into it. For the first time, we heard a "Let's Go Hawks" chant after Tilly turned it over in the backcourt. He got bumped, and it went across the midline, and so he turns it over. Iowa comes down, has a long possession. Tilly commits a foul, 8:09 to go. They hit 2 free throws. It's a 7-point game. Mobley hits a free throw. It's an 8-point game. But we had a stretch here where Iowa scored on 5 straight possessions to cut it to a 6-point deficit for the Hawkeyes. Ohio State scored on 4 straight to push it back to 12 points at 66-54. Thornton hit a baseline jumper that ended that run. Iowa scored on 4 straight, made it 68-62. And then everything gets really wonky here at the very end. So Ohio State's up 5. Tilly has the ball under the rim. And instead of being able to dunk it or get it to the rim or anything like that, he gets tied up. And possession arrow goes to the Hawkeyes. They end up with a slam dunk. It's a 3-point game. And then Thornton comes out and misses. And it's like, oh boy, here you go. And Christoph Tilly fouls Bennett starts on a drive with 38.7 seconds left. Iffy call is what it is. He hits both. It's a 1-point game, 70-69. And Ohio State gets the ball to Thornton. He drives and he misses. And Amari Bynum is right there to clean it up. And he's not sure, dunk it, lay it in. So he tries to lay it in and it doesn't fall. And it's like, you could feel it in that moment. Like there's an 8-second differential on the shot clock, but it's like Bynum doesn't get the tip. And you're thinking, here it comes. But then they end up getting the ball. Like the Ohio State keeps the possession alive. Mobley gets fouled with 8.8 seconds left. And he hits both free throws, makes it a 3-point lead. Iowa comes down, misses a 3-pointer. They get the ball across half court, call timeout, 7.2 seconds left, draw up a play, and they get a 3-pointer from like the left corner or left wing, and it hits the shot clock. So Ohio State ball out of bounds, 4.4 seconds left. Kind of a tough break because in that moment you're thinking, okay, well he misses the shot badly. Ohio State was in position to get the rebound. You get fouled, it's over. You maybe dribble another second or 2 off the clock. Instead, you got to inbound it. Ohio State does until he gets fouled. Then he misses the front of the 1-on-1, which loomed large. But Ohio State up 3 at this point. That would have iced it. And when Iowa gets the rebound, Amari Bynum fouls to well at the other end of the clock. I was at a 1-on-1, or the other end of the court, 1-on-1. There's about 4 seconds left, 3 seconds left. And then this all happened so fast. Like you look at the play-by-play and everything that happened in the last 8 seconds is just wild. So Tilly misses a free throw. Bynum fouls Alvaro Folgarius. He goes to the line for the 1-on-1 and he misses. And Thornton is trying to secure the rebound as his momentum is carrying him back toward midcourt. And he kind of falls as Isaiah Howard rips the ball from his hands and it didn't look very good in the moment, but when I watched the replay, gets a pretty good look from 3 that does not fall. I asked several players about that after the game. Tilly said that from his viewpoint under the basket, he could tell pretty much right away that it wasn't in, so he wasn't too worried about it. Bruce said that as he saw the ball in the air, he thought, well, worst case scenario, they're going to overtime. And I actually thought this was a pretty good quote from Bruce that just kind of underlines a lot of this stuff and just like why this team feels like it's okay. Bruce said, either way, he's going to make it, and either he's going to make it and we're going to overtime, or we win. So one or the other. He said, it's a little different feeling when you're up 3. Ain't that the truth? I mean, like, how different does that moment feel compared to situation reverse and Ohio State's the one needing the 3-pointer? Like, we've, how many times have we seen that game? But they did just enough. They built enough of a lead. And one of the last things I want to get into on here, and I was going to make this part of my takeaways, but it just ended up being too long. And maybe it's something that I'll revisit in a day or two. But, you know, that's a tough way to look at things when it's day to day in the tournament. But I went over and I talked to Gabe Cupps because he's been in the Big Ten for a couple of years. And I said, like, what does it take in this league for a team, you have a lead and the other team keeps kind of chipping away? Like, what does it take to hold on? And he talked about trust. And I feel like that's such an easy thing to just kind of say, like, oh yeah, well, we trust each other, and so we knew we were going to be okay. But he talked about being very intentional about this team building its trust, and he talked about how much they've worked on that. But some of that, when I asked Jake Diebler about it, he said, like, yeah, that's all true, and this team was kind of built in a way that they felt like there would be a good connection and good chemistry and stuff. But he said, like, sometimes that stuff has to be born out of adversity, and that you don't really know, like, if a team has those kinds of things unless you're put through some of those moments, and then you kind of see how you respond. And they said, with all the stuff that this team has been through over the course of the season, that has borne out the way that they hoped it would. And that's a big contributing factor to why this team now has won 4 straight, certainly has a lot of momentum, and feels as connected and high level as on a consistent basis as it has all year. I mean, even like going back to the preseason or the early portion of the schedule and like, reeling off wins against mid-major teams and things like that. Like when things were going well for Ohio State early, it didn't feel like it feels right now. And some of that I'm sure is prisoner of the moment. It's the calendar. It's the stage continues to grow, like all those things. But I thought there was a lot of truth in what those guys talked about. And I wanted to get into it in takeaways, but there's only so many characters, I suppose. And, it just couldn't quite find a way to make it fit. But, those are the kinds of things that, like, when you have an open locker room, you go talk to a bunch of different people. Sometimes you just get an interesting idea, or someone says something that kind of catches your ear a little bit. And, sometimes it morphs into a full story. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it makes for, a little bit more insight to put on the podcast here. Both Brandon Knoll and Puff Johnson were available for this game. Neither of them played, and Diebler was asked about that in his press conference, which is one of those things. I never go to the press conference in these situations because the press conference is the same time as the open locker room, and all the players that are at that press conference are going to be in that locker room eventually. So you get better answers face to face. You can do better reporting. So I'm looking at the transcript here. So Diebler was asked about the two of them. And he said, there were a couple conversations in this game about maybe getting them in a time or two. I just felt like shrinking the rotation for this game is really important. Obviously, size is going to be critical next game. Iowa went smaller this game at times. So at that moment, we went a little smaller versus going bigger. But I think next game, we've got to have all hands on deck and really ready to go. Those guys have trended in a really positive direction. So we feel good as far as their availability goes for tomorrow. That's the other kind of interesting wrinkle in this is, like the minutes start to add up at some point. And if Brandon Knoll can give them 6 minutes tomorrow, if Puff Johnson can give them 4 minutes tomorrow, and they can contribute and they can hold their own, like, that's all significant stuff. And those are the kinds of contributions you need to advance when you're playing potentially 4 games in 4 days. So we'll be interested to see what that does look like tomorrow as the Buckeyes get ready to play Michigan. Ken Palm right now projects it Michigan 85, Ohio State 73, 13% chance for the Buckeyes, according to that. All right. Well, I think, like I said, I wanted to try to keep this one relatively short because I got more stuff to go write about the basketballs. I'm going to go write about the chance to face Michigan again. I did see a projection that had Ohio State as an 8 seed, and with first round win, would then get 1 seed Michigan in the second round, which, I guess there's no point really debating it unless that's what the draw shows on Sunday, but it seems seems less than ideal. Let's put it that way. Look at my quotes real quick. See if there's anything else I meant to mention on here. Oh, last thing. I meant to mention this a few moments ago, but talking about like these end of game situations. And I mean, I've heard them say this all year. Like, we practice this stuff. Well, apparently they have a phrase for it. John Mobley said they call them hard hat situations. He said it's the kind of stuff like they do it literally every practice at the end, where it's like, all right, there's 15 seconds and we're up 3 and we just hit a free throw. What do we do? Like, they practice all kinds of things like that, and that's the phrase for them. They call them hard hat situations. So apparently that's a daily part of practice. I thought that was interesting, and to mention that on here. So now I'm going to wrap this up, go get some more writing done. As always, you can send along your questions, your comments, your love notes, your hate mail, and otherwise constructive criticism to me at Adam Jardy on Twitter or ajardy@dispatch.com. Thank you again for listening. Thanks to Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, for getting this out to you all. Northwestern and Purdue are starting to take the court. They just turned the music on in the arena, so we're not too far from the second session getting started. So I will be back with you probably this time tomorrow. So look for a podcast Friday evening. Until then, be kind, take care, and we'll talk soon. Donato's is legendary for putting so much on their pizzas, but just listen to what they're taking off. Right now, buy any large pizza and add a large one-topping pizza for half off. Use promo code HALF. Donato's, gotta love more.
Be sure and subscribe to the Buckeye Extra podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, or on Stitcher.